Yeah, today's topic is actually a pretty good one because I really like it because I've been playing so many different fighting games, which is very unusual for me specifically. As I've said before, I've been one of those guys who will play I'll play Mortal Kombat X for like 6 months on end, then I'll play Street Fighter 5 for 6 months. Like I won't go back and forth and back and forth, you know what I mean? And as of late, that's not been the case at all. So yeah, so you this is also great too because I'm excited and I thank you so much for this, Temp, because you asked to be here.
I did. Yes.
And I am you're the second person now. Rain Reptile, which was another great episode, wanted to be on the episode. We had a really great talk about Mortal Kombat 12 and like the little things. So this one, you wanted to do a kind of MK versus the world. And
yes, exactly.
Okay.
And almost like a build your own MK11. So it's like, build your own MK12. So like we're kind of taking the fighting games we've experienced and kind of bringing that to the Sizzler buffet and seeing what we want to see and what we don't want to see, of course.
Sizzler, that's somewhere I haven't been in a while.
I think it's gone. I think they're extinct.
Yeah.
Meteorite took them all out.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start with Strive. Because that's, I guess, the one that I've been playing the most as of late.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that's kind of a controversial game too, because it's so different from Xrd, right?
Yeah,
and there's a immediate parallel. And as MK11 was night and day from MKX, and MKX was night and day from MK9. So the Guilty Gear guys kind of went through what the Mortal Kombat guys went through for the first time. Not the first time, because people hated Xrd when it first came out. Not everyone, but like the Guilty Gear X plus R crowd was not happy with Xrd. They really did not like Yellow RC. Just as like the old school Guilty Gear guys did not like BlazBlue when it came out. They thought it was a baby's game, right?
Okay.
Just so far from the truth. But yeah, so it's, I think one of the cool things about you playing so many games on Steam is you can actually see the metrics. You can actually tell how much you enjoyed a game by the number of hours you put into it. And I think you said you put 35 hours into Strive.
This last week. Yeah.
So something worked. It sounds like something clicked with you in Strive. So let's start with that. What made you boot up the game again and then again after that?
Well, so I'll be honest. I downloaded Strive during the netcode beta. Or what was it? It wasn't netcode. It was
the crossplay.
Crossplay. Thank you. Yeah, during the crossplay beta, I booted it up. Tried doing like the tutorial for a minute. Even some friends of mine, they're like, "Hey, are you going to do this like outside of like you and the Netherkast and the gameplay guys?" And whenever it was just like I was like, "Nah, bro, that's a weeb game. I don't want to play that game."
I mean, you're right.
Yeah, I was like, "Nah, bro, I'm not going to play that." But nothing against Anna, because I wouldn't call myself like a hardcore like otaku, but I enjoy anime from time to time, and I really enjoy DNF Duel. So I booted it up and tried it for 15 minutes, but I did try it with a very biased opinion to where I'm like I knew I wasn't going to like it, so I already came in with that. And then what made me download again was I downloaded Xrd. And did not like it whatsoever.
That's fair. No, that's fair. Yeah.
I didn't. It was so chaotic, and it's a very hard game for a new player. And so I was like, I started kind of digging into the lore a little bit, and believe it or not, of all things, it was actually Kai who, just that character alone, I was like, okay, I'll download Strive. I'll get Strive and I'll download it. And I told myself this time too, I want to tell myself like, hey, I'm going to download a game and play the easiest character, which is something I never do. I always play the character I think looks cool, or that really stands out to me, even if they are the hardest character. I told myself, oh, I'm going to play the easiest character. I'm going to learn how to play this game and see what it's all about. And turns out like, it was super, super fun. Then I started digging into the lore and everything like that. And so, yeah, just the Kai's character alone made me want to download the game.
That's good because that's a good character to not just to start with. Although
Mm-hmm.
he's deceptively difficult in some categories, but like, no, I agree. I love Kai as well. I really like the sort of the classic frenemy Top Gun relationship he has with the main character. Because it's
like
very easy
lot.
to. I thought he was the main character for like a decade, and I was like, "Oh, Soul's the main character." Learn something new every day.
Turns out Soul's actually the main character, and Kai is like his, his best friend. It's like it is flip flop too, because it's like Soul's the main character, but Soul is is Iceman, and Kai is Maverick. Instead of Maverick being the main character.
Yeah. It's also very Odd Couple too, with Kai being Jack Lemmon and Soul being very much Walter Matthau. Yeah, and that's a lot of fun. That's a good one. It makes the story mode great. I won't spoil the ending for Xrd, but there's an epilogue where
I've already did all of it.
Really,
the story.
Nice.
Yeah.
Then about the Soul needs to prepare for his fight with Asuka. And he talks to Kai. He's like, I need to get ready for this. And he basically calls Kai a pussy. And Kai puts him in his place, right? So, it's... I don't know.
At church, of all places.
Yeah.
He goes to church while Kai is praying and calls him out. And Kai was like, okay, in church. And totally destroys him.
That Soul character, he's a rebel.
Yeah.
He beats to his own drum, right? So,
right.
But yeah, Kai's sick. Kai is actually probably the best fit for me gameplay wise. The only reason I went with Zato is because no one else was playing Zato. Because even Down4 was playing Kai for a bit in the beta. So I was thinking, well, no one's using Zato. I might as well pick up Zato. So
Zato kind of turned me off of the game originally, because when I wanted to watch Guilty Gear, like before I play a game, like or if a game is already like out and established, I'll watch some competition on it and see what it looks like, competitive wise. And I was watching some Zato players. I think it was actually Latif, and I was just like, oh dude, this just looks awful. It's just pressure. How does anyone ever even fight against this guy? This just looks dumb. That was my initial, that was probably my first ever experience of watching like Guilty Gear competitively.
Well, your impression was correct. Literally everything you said is true. You have not said a false thing yet about Zato or Guilty Gear.
Yeah. So
it's
just pressure. Everything is pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's mostly safe pressure too, because Zato is just eating a Snickers in the background while Eddie does all the work, right?
Yeah, he is. He's literally like 15 feet away, and he's just like doing that the entire time. And and Eddie's just sitting there, just like going to town, and Leo is stuck in the corner, just like doing this the entire time. It's like, okay, is he gonna get out of it? What's gonna happen?
I don't feel bad because all the Leo players can die, honestly. I hate that character. But what's cool about that is now that Zato is like reformed, he's not evil anymore. Like when you call Eddie out, or when you summon Eddie back, he's like, he actually thanks Eddie, and Eddie goes away. Or like he'll say rest now when Eddie leaves the screen. It's just little things like that.
That's cool.
Make the lore so important because it just filters into the game. There's a lot of unique dialogues between characters depending on who you're fighting. Little cool things like that are really fun. Speaking of things that would be really nice in Mortal Kombat, which MKX did that. I'm pretty sure MK11 did that to an extent as well. But so you're playing Kai, right?
I played Kai, Ram Lethal, Giovanna. Who else have I tried picking up? Just those those are like the main three that I've probably played the most.
What would you say makes Kai fun to you? What do you say? What would you say makes a Guilty Gear match fun with Kai?
I like his mid range, normals. The amount of pressure that he can put on that's like safe, and I like the different uses of projectiles. So it's like if I'm far away and I have somebody like Zato, I can, I can't really use projectiles a lot with him, but it's like I like. I just like the strategy behind him too. So it's like, fire the slow moving projectile and then run in. He feels like safe pressure. And aesthetics are really important to me too. So when he uses Dragon Install, I'm like, oh shoot, like, you know, it's going down. Like that's kind of how I feel you when you see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And gosh, what's his super?
Ride the Lightning.
Right, thank you. Ride the Lightning. Like it just looks super cool. Everything about it just looks super cool.
So there's definitely a charisma element there.
Yeah.
We'll drill down into the mid-range factor in a second because that's really important, especially in the conversation around MK12. But just when you do like a DP with Kai, it's this big green blast that takes up like a fourth of the screen.
Yeah.
When it hits the opponent, they go flying. It just feels good.
And he has two DPs too. He has a forward up and a straight up, and I like that too. That's pretty cool. So there's a lot you can do. There's a lot of options with him, and it's like everything. Like you can put on the heavy pressure too, but when you're also on the defense, like when you're waiting for your turn or someone's like trying to do jump ins or whatever, he has something for everything, and that's what I really like about him. So
and it matters at so many different parts of the screen as well. So you're never really that safe from his DP. Right. You can pull the trigger on that at many different locations of the screen, and you're still going to get snapped, right?
I rarely used it offensively. I mostly used it defensively.
I mean, that makes sense. I like it for wall breaks just because it feels good. I don't know if it actually does more damage, but it just there's a catharsis to it. MK11 had some mid. I think it did the mid range thing better than MKX because my problem with MKX was if you do anything in that game that gets blocked, your turn is basically over. And that is so not Strive.
No.
At Strive, with Kai especially, you can run in right outside of sweep distance. You could do a long range slash and cancel that into fireball, and you're still at neutral. You're still in a position where you can make meaningful decisions. And MK11,
and you can open with specials. That's what I liked about Kai. You can open with specials.
Like the flip kick specifically, or what?
Yeah, like if you timed it right, you do the flip kick specifically. Then you can do like a down kick dust, to what was it? Down back slash. There are so many options with it, but and I did want to say like after I played Strive for a little bit, I played a little bit of Exert too as well. Now that I had like kind of a general idea of it, and it actually made Exert a lot more enjoyable after I kind of had an idea of how this game is to be played. And let's see, there's a significant difference between because Exert is like, I just felt like I was just pushing buttons and it was even more and more pressure. Strive I liked a lot better because I felt like I had a little bit more control like of my character.
There isn't the problem of verticality in Strive as much, right? So with it's really like a face clock in Exert where you kind of have to watch your back from every angle. In Strive, for the most part, you're really just worrying about what's directly in front of you, and you're not worrying about 13 different types of cross-ups, right? So I mean, you and I had a very similar experience, maybe almost identical.
Yeah, you hated Exert. You told me that you hated it when you first loaded it in.
And I hated it 6 months after that, too. I didn't really even look back until I played the Strive demo and I played May and I was like, this is a lot of fun. This is really fun. And now it's gone. So now my option is only Exert. So I was like, I might as well learn this game. And then once I found a character I liked, it all started to click. But I use Kai and Exert, and I still don't really like Kai and Exert, to be honest with you. He's cool, but
you don't like the ponytail?
He feels weird. Oh, I love the ponytail. The ponytail's the best. It's the only good thing about him. That's not true.
The long blonde ponytail hair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so metal. And I think in certain circumstances...
Dude, Soul is metal. Like, to me, Soul is just pure 80s thrash metal.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to put metal onto Kai, it'd be like... he looks like he would listen to Dragon Force.
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Soul is very AC/DC. He's very much, your dad's radio station, while Kai is very much singing about dragons over lead guitar, right? So there are different flavors of metal, but yeah, I thought that ponytail was so sick. I was so sad when that was
Kai
gone.
looks like he puts a mirror on his microphone stand.
Which is so funny because in the story, his personality is not like that at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah, he's very much almost a stoic.
Yeah, no, his character is fantastic. I know we're more so talking about gameplay and stuff like that, but just it's it wasn't until Kai, because I like representation matters, but it wasn't until Kai that I realized, okay, here is a father, husband, like character who is noble and true to both his faith and his ethics, and is like that kind of character, and it's also in a positive light. That was like, Kai was one of the first characters I've seen be like that in like probably 20-30 years.
That's very much an anime too. That goes all the way back to Goku. The idea of being a family man and sort of being like a good citizen and still being cool and still being like the charismatic person in the room.
Yeah.
You don't really see that I can't think of anything, at least right now, in Western media. The cool guy is always an asshole in his 20s.
America is very big on the anti-hero right now. They like the Deadpools, the Wolverines. They like the even Batman. Batman was actually like, up until Batflick, Batman never, his biggest thing was you do not kill, you never kill. And then all of a sudden, Ben Affleck comes around and plays his Batman. And he's just offing people left and right, and you're just, And people,
there was a backlash to that too, and I think people are burning out.
Yeah,
I feel like people are kind of craving that, like, that sincerity in a character.
Yeah.
And Soul is that sort of anti-hero. I don't give a crap about anything but myself. But like,
yeah, I only want my wife back, and that's all. Like that's pretty much Soul's character.
But even he won't say that out loud, and that's where Soul kind of feels sincere to me. Is that he doesn't feel like an actual rebel. He feels like someone who's not a rebel, who's putting on a rebel face, and that's what makes the character work.
Mm-hmm. It's like that. It's like that scene. Have you ever seen The Social Network?
Yeah.
Yeah, like at the very end, she's like, what'd she say? She goes, "You're not an asshole, Mark. You're just trying so hard to be." That's how I feel. That's Soul to me.
Yeah, that's 100% Soul. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Since you've seen the extra story mode, that he's secretly terrified of Kai.
Yeah,
like that guy scares the crap out of me. So yeah, but this kind of ties back to MK12, right? Because isn't it great to have a character you like that you can play?
Yeah,
wouldn't that be nice? I just feel like it'd be a good thing if I liked my character. Did anyone like Cabal? Did anyone like playing as Cabal?
No.
Did anyone look at their Cabal costume and be like, "Man, this is sick"?
No, I can't. No. Like I kind of miss, because I was a katana main. I kind of miss MKX and MK9's katana. The whole the sassy whole like royalty. You will, what does she say before she fights? Like, you will show respect, and
something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And then in MKX, she was like, she felt more like an authority figure. Like, you will give me respect. And then I feel like in MKX, she was a lot more like, I feel sorry for everybody because privilege is all I know, kind of thing. And I didn't like that at all.
I don't remember that, but that sounds like MK11, so it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. I actually don't remember anything about Katana in MK11. I remember she slashed Shao Kahn's eyes, and I think she had a conversation with Jade, and everything else is a blur.
Yeah, it didn't feel like Katana at all. So, and that was a bummer because she's like one of my favorite characters. Nightwolf, I'm glad he was a lot more of a significant character. He's one of my favorite characters as well. It was just very strange because he's supposed to be like really tied to his tribe, which is great. And for whatever reason, they made up a tribe. I don't know why they didn't do the whole Killer Instinct thing and have an actual tribe, but it was very like, I'm only here to serve the Motoka and protect the Motoka. And I was just like, I would rather him say like, I'm here to protect Earthrealm so that my tribe can continue to live. Like his motive was true, and I like his motive. It just felt very, it just didn't feel very believable.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, it didn't feel like this person had any. Whenever you hear his intro dialogues, he just sounds bitter and one-dimensionally angry.
Yeah,
and I never got a sense this person had any sort of perspective of scale of what was actually going on in MK11. Yeah. He just seemed really angry and pissed. Now, granted, I only watched Aftermath once, and I don't remember
called it. Yeah.
Oh, what's up?
You just watched it and called it, and you're just like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, no, and I never looked back. I was good after that, and I feel like Nightwolf is a very easy character to write, and they still messed it up. So, yeah, I'm gonna check that box and say let's have characters we like in MK12, make them likable, make them cool, and I just kind of circle back to that commitment thing. If you're in the mid range, I would like to have options that don't put me. Because that was a big problem with MK11 is if you do anything on block, it's not as bad as MKX. You don't have to worry about a 50-50, not necessarily. But now you're in a throw mix-up. And I feel like MK's meta was just throw mix-up after throw mix-up because you couldn't do anything at a reasonable spacing and convert from it. And when you take combos and chip damage out of the picture, it gets even worse.
Yeah.
So I'll put that there. But how do you feel about wall break before we move on from Strive?
I like wall break. I never want to do Injustice 2's stage changes ever again because I thought that was garbage. But I like wall break because I think wall break should take a little bit more effort with how much damage you get from it. But I like how quick it is.
Yeah,
it's not a huge theatrical 15-second fall down the stairs, go through the pyramids and go through a portal, fall through these AC or tubes and stuff like that, and all these conduits. I hate that. And I like wall break, and it does it's really quick. It's a cool little falls into a different part of the stage and everything, and it's really quick, but I feel like the damage is really high, and so I think it deserves a little bit more. I think a little bit more effort should be put into the wall, to get the wall break.
Okay. Well, I think damage is too high overall in Strive. I would like to see. That's one reason why I like Xers so much is because the matches there's just more back and forth because characters die so quickly in Strive.
That's true.
I'd bring the damage down as a whole, but I wouldn't mind seeing different wall restrictions. Like, one of my favorite things about Strive is that it kind of has crushing blows. Like, the way I want crushing blows to be are kind of already in Strive. Or let's say we start a match on Zato.
I 100% agree with that one. Yeah, I do like the way the crushing blows are in there, and or counters is essentially what they are, or they call them counters, but they're exactly what crushing blows should have been.
And they hurt too, and also they're skill based. It's a crushing blow that really involves a reaction, because you'll notice when you play my Zato, I'm doing a lot of run up, crouching slash. And the reason is when you get that counter, I'm converting into run RC. I'm pushing you into the corner, and I get a wall break for that, all from the mid screen. And that's not easy to do because you have to react to it. Yeah, and you have to buffer the inputs on time, or you won't get the run cancel.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not easy to do, but it also goes to show the damage is way higher in Strive than MK11. So it goes to show if you did have that crushing blow system in MK12, where crushing blows are just counter hits, it's not going to be the end of the world. People are going to be fine. They're just going to have to play smart, right? God forbid.
I'm not against crushing blows at all. In fact, I like the idea of crushing blows. I just felt like they're implemented poorly as far as Guilty Gear Strive goes. And I like the other thing too is I like the animation to it too. And it's like, if you get a crushing blow, it slows the screen down for literally 1.1 second. You get a little and it slows down. But with MK11, it was just like, it did do the same exact thing, but it was like, it showed an X-ray and showed your teeth breaking and stuff like that. That's probably one of the biggest things about MK11 that I hated was the animations to it. Like, the fatal blows was worse than fatalities is also something that needs to be dumbed down for sure. But like, I was totally on board with crushing blows and perfect. Was it perfect block? What was it called again?
I know faultless defense. I don't remember
flawless block.
They have flawless block in Guilty Gear, but I can't remember what the term is anymore.
But I like that idea as well. I just felt like it was just implemented poorly. So if they could kind of, change that up a little bit to where it's just more enjoyable, I guess. I don't know how I would change it, to be honest. It's like I kind of know how I would not do it. I just don't know how I change it to actually do it correctly. So it's like, I can only tell you that I don't like it. Like, I like the idea, but don't like the way it's done.
I'd say speed it up maybe is a good start. I think if they do that much, it'll help quite a bit. Yeah. Almost every game we're talking about, with the exception of the Street Fighters. One thing I love about Guilty Gear Strive, Xrd, and DNF and Granblue even, is you can run. You tap forward and you're running, and it's amazing. I love that. I would love to see that. KOF does that too. So yeah.
Do you want run? Would you like run back in Mortal Kombat again?
Yes and no. I guess it's so you're flipping a coin, right? I would love run if it's done right. Because I don't think run was really a problem with MKX, to be honest with you. So I'm going to say
it was unsafe.
Well, it could be. Because what I would often do is I would run up and get right into sweep distance and then do it down forward with Sub-Zero. And if they blocked it, well, I'm blocking, but at least I'm at sweep distance. They didn't block it, then I would go for either a back 2 or I'd run up again and do forward 1-2. That's kind of what my meta was. So you can kind of make it safe, but the only problem with run is if you do put run in the game, you're basically giving up any possibility of an MK9 neutral. So that's where that's where the tension is for me. It's like, well, if we want to bring back the great things about MK9, we kind of have to say goodbye to run. But run could be great. There's no reason why you can't have run. Or just better dashes. I think mobility actually is, for the most part, okay in MK11. It was everything else that was bad.
Yeah. Because do you like the idea of footsies in neutral? Like in the
I do, yes.
Okay, so because I'm trying to think right now of all the anime fighters that you actually just mentioned, and I was like, there is some footsies in neutral and Strive. There's definitely none in Xrd whatsoever. You can forget about that. DNF Duel, not really.
I think there is in DNF Duel just because jumping is so dangerous.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
You do have to play sort of like a very mindful ground game. So I do think there is quite a bit of footsies in DNF. It's also like there is running in that game, but the run speed varies so much between character to character. From character to character. So
which is good. I like that. I don't like that it's just run. That's all there is.
Granblue is the footsie game with run. Like Granblue is a very, very footsie intensive game. If you watch Evo, it was almost too apparent in Evo. I wish other characters showed up just because I don't think it was a great look for the game. But yes, very, very neutral heavy, very footsie intensive game with a run function. So.
So as far as anime fighters goes, there's one thing I've been thinking about a lot since we talked about since you mentioned it last week about the topic of the podcast, was the one thing that I really, really like that I'd like to see implemented that Mortal Kombat has not implemented is the idea of character specific bars. Guilty Gear Strive does it. Does DNF Duel do it? I know Street Fighter does it as well, but it's like in most Mortal Kombat, it's like they're, for instance, almost all the Mortal Kombats, it's always just like, here's your bar, you get 4 bars, 3 bars, 2 offensive, 2 defensive bars and everything. But if you watched my Serena video, I said we should have maybe your 3 or your 4 EX bars, whatever. But I also thought this idea of having another bar that controlled her demon form, and I know there's a lot of characters in Guilty Gear, like what's his name?
Zato and Happy Chaos are 2 of them. Right
Sin,
off the bat.
I think Sin has one.
Nagoriyuki also has his blood gauge.
His blood gauge, yeah, exactly. So that's what I was talking about. Was I think I would really like to see some really unique character expression in the next Mortal Kombat, and that's something that I haven't seen before in any Mortal Kombat game. Everybody's just had the same bar, and I would really like to see something implemented that way, in the way that other more specifically anime fighters have done really well, which was just character specific bars for specific kind of specials or moves or whatever it is that they do. And yeah, so I don't know, what do you think that could be something?
I think in moderation. I think Guilty Gear took it a little too far.
Okay.
Killer Instinct also does this a lot. Spinal has skull stocks. Fulgore has his own unique meter system that no one else has in the game. I can't remember the vampire's name anymore, but she has a blood gauge, I think, of her own.
Okay.
Maya has the daggers as her subsystem. And based on how many times you block, I think increases her meter. So I don't want that to become the norm.
Okay.
Just because like Soul Calibur also does that too. Like Soul Calibur 6 is my favorite game ever made, fighting game wise. And I feel like every other character has a subsystem in that game. I had to learn Setsuka, and her subsystem is just bonkers. So, like I was reading up, I was like, I'm just not going to learn this. I don't have time for this. But she has a crazy, intensive, complicated subsystem. So I don't want it to become Soul Calibur 6 or Killer Instinct. But I think there's like some characters, there's room for that. I mean, I don't mind Kung Lao having a hat gauge. That's fine. So yeah, it's
no, and yeah, I think it has to be a very, very specific character, but it's also that's something I would want is unique character expression in Mortal Kombat. And I don't feel like that's ever been the case, really. And it's like right now, currently, the past 2 days, I've been playing Deception. I've been going through the Conquest mode, and of course, in the Conquest mode, you learn all the different characters and stuff like that. And as I'm going through it, it's like, it's super fun. I'm having so much fun with that game. But at the same time, I'm also like, every character almost feels exactly the same.
I can see that, yeah.
So...
Which is ironic because there's 3 stances per character. You would think everyone would be massively different, but it doesn't really translate into that.
I mean, their stances and stuff, and it's cool that they're given, like, they're shedding light on different martial arts styles, which is what originally drew me into the 3D era in general, because I was just really into martial arts and kung fu, and I was just like, this is sick, So it was like, it was super cool that way, but I really like the way it's implemented in Guilty Gear. I don't think it's overdone. I like the fact that each character is individually unique and has different sorts of expression. Kai doesn't at all, but Sin does, Nagoriyuki does, all those different characters do. And I just think it's really cool, and it makes each individual character unique. In that,
believe it or not, Kai actually does, but it's not a meter. It's his shock effect. So he hits you with something special. Yeah.
That's his uniqueness, but it's not a meter.
No, not necessarily. So in that sense, yeah.
Yeah. So what what I'm getting is just to see unique play styles.
Oh yeah.
That's what I would really like to see, is just completely unique play styles.
Soul Calibur 6 just wore me out on those. But I see where you're coming from, though.
Yeah, because one of the things that I'll never forget this is Tweety, of course, got into a Twitter battle with somebody else. It was a Tekken player. This must have been like 5 years ago. But he was like, they were, talking trash to each other about their respective games. And like Tweety was saying, he was defending Mortal Kombat, saying like, I can learn every character in this game and compete with every character in this game, given the meta. And he goes, at least I don't have to dive deep into one character that has 110 different moves. And I was like, well, I kind of like that, though. I kind of like that, especially in Tekken 7, because there's like 90 moves per character. It's like you have to choose and you have to really dive deep into the character that you choose. And that's what I really like. Like, we were watching Frosty Faustings, and it was really funny to see. There's a lot of Bridget players. I thought that was cool. But like Latif was just wrecking with Zato. And Razo was just killing it with Leo, but then switched over to somebody else, I forgot, and then he went back to Leo, and they were actually saying like, this isn't normal, this isn't a way they play, you know what I mean? So it was it was cool to see like they were diving deep into those characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have a real like diversity in counter picks, right? Because in Mortal Kombat, I would say I disagree with Tweety's thesis there, because in Tekken, it's actually pretty easy to jump from character to character because everyone has a down forward one, everyone has a down four low. Pretty much everyone has some sort of 12 frame punish as long as you know what the inputs are. Which is not, I mean, MK is the same way. It's like if you want to know how to do a launcher in MK, you gotta know what string it is. So almost everyone has a down forward 2 launch as well in Tekken. So you can actually, if you understand the game on a fundamental level, you can. Everything else is a bread and butter. Now, granted, if you want to optimize, you gotta learn probably the top 15 moves for every character, right? So I think it kind of evens out, to be honest with you. But yeah, the idea of like going from Leo from Happy Chaos is just such an explosive difference. You don't really get that.
Was that what Razzo did?
I don't remember anymore.
They were playing Leo. I remember that, but I don't know what they switched over to.
There's so much Leo too, so it all blends together. I love Strive until Happy Chaos is on screen, and then I hate watch Leo or Happy Chaos. Even Nagoriyuki, even though people hate that character, I still think that character's cool as long as it's not a mirror. But man, Happy Chaos just kills the viewability of that game. But
so that's so that's another thing I wanted to make a personal point to was just what you said, because I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched any of the Capcom Cup, and I've been looking forward to watching the Capcom Cup because of how big of a Street Fighter fan I am. But because of the meta, like, it's just Luke players. Luke is everywhere, and it drives me insane because it's so boring. It's not that Luke's boring, it's just it became boring because it's Luke is everywhere. And it kind of shows what makes a game very fun to watch is a big deal to me as well, because I loved watching Street Fighter and Evo because every single person in the top 8 had a different character that they played. Excuse me. And it's Guilty Gear. With Guilty Gear Strive, when I was watching Frosty Faustings, every player there had a different character that they played. There wasn't one character that was not played at Frosty Faustings, and it was so much fun to watch. I had a lot of fun watching that.
Well, what really frustrated me about Evo is that people used the top 8 to be like, see, Luke doesn't ruin the game. Luke's not a problem. Look at all these scrubs who thought Luke was a problem. Man, what a bunch of idiots. And it's just like, he first of all, like, a lot of people who were playing Luke were not Luke mains. They were switching to Luke because he was a current top tier. And people just didn't have their stuff down yet. I think that's one factor. I think the people who weren't playing Luke were playing characters they've been playing for years, right? So just a horrible example. And yeah, you're right. Luke is boring. I actively dislike the character. He's a little better in 6, but when I didn't know about 6 when I first saw Luke, and I just thought he looked like a douchebag. So yeah, just
he looks like every other like 18-year-old American. Just, I don't know how to even describe him. He does. He just looks like an arrogant, like, prick. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, and so like,
I was like, is that what the Jap? Yeah. And I'm actually a fan of the. I know it sounds weird, but like, even though I just described it, I'm actually a fan of the way he looks. I like it because it fits him. And so yeah, I'm actually thinking because it fits his character and everything. But really, it's just the fact that, like, every single character or every single player right now, like, everybody's playing, and I got to give a huge like, I got to give shout outs to people like Just a Kid who are just sticking with Jury and killing it with Jury. You know, it's like, it was nice that someone's like sticking with their character instead of switching to, what's meta.
Well, I give him some credit. I don't give him all the credit because Jury got buffed to like high heaven. So she is so stupid now.
Yeah.
He wasn't, if he was pointing results, I don't think he was doing it with Jury prior to the final patch. But I mean, the fact that he's using a cool character, because everyone thinks Jury is cool, almost unanimously.
Yeah.
But Luke, gosh, the stars like on the side of his head, like the fact that he got his barber to like make stars, and then he got more stars on his forearms, and then he has the Van Halen logo on his chest. He just looks so fucking stupid to me. I can't do it, man. And then, shirtless guy in general is not my favorite. If you have a guy without a shirt, I've already lost interest. Usually, it took me like 15 years to warm up to Johnny Cage. Finally, I was like, all right, maybe this character's cool. Gosh, Luke is just. But yes, continue.
I was literally to say Johnny Cage, but I like that. But that's the thing too, is like I like Johnny Cage because of that very, very reason. I like, they put the Cage tattoo across it. He has the 90s purple leather jacket with no shirt underneath, unzipped. I was like, dude, this guy looks awesome. But
even back then, man, he had the shadow kick. He had the shadow uppercut.
Yeah,
so.
he totally looks cool, and he looks the character, and I like it. I think it's cool, but yeah, it's the point is just that's where devs really need to work hard to make a good meta, because as we're seeing right now with Street Fighter, it's just Luke's everywhere. And it's so boring to watch. It's so boring to play.
It's so sad to watch Tokido, legendary Street Fighter player, walk up to the setup, pick up a controller, and pick Luke. That is just makes me nauseous, right? And like honestly, I mean, I'll put a bookmark there, but I'm not even really done saying bad things about Luke. I could go on, but I don't want to dwell too much on that, but so he's a little better in 6 just because I think his personality doesn't feel as just cocky and bland. He actually feels like a normal human being with like friends and relationships, right?
Luke?
Yeah, because he just feels like the cocky youth when I see him in Street Fighter 5, and I'm like, I cannot get into the mindset of this.
He definitely seems better in 6.
Yeah,
so far. I mean, of what we've seen, we haven't seen a lot, but he definitely.
He reminds me of Sin. Actually, Sin is very likable in Strive. Sin is a nice dude.
I like Sin. He's cool.
I like Sin a lot because, like, people like Sin. Like, he's sort of like the dumb blonde surfer dude with a heart of gold, and I'm like, okay, well, I know someone like that. I can kind of, I can suspend belief with like, oh man, I want to watch my language, but I don't want to tell you what I think Luke looks like in Street Fighter 5, right? It's not safe for work. So I'll leave that at that. But still though, yes, it is a shame that Capcom would not nerf Luke more than they did. I think that's really unfortunate and such a bad way to end the legacy of Street Fighter 5.
Yeah, when I was watching it, like I thought it was really cool that like IDOM was playing as Laura in Evo, because I was like, this is sick. He's like the only, and he exposed Laura for being overpowered, and he was like, it's kind of like I forgot what the player that you talked about with MK9 with Johnny Cage.
Dizzy.
What's that?
Oh no, Foxy Grandpa.
Yeah, it was. You're right. It was a Foxy Grandpa. He was like, not only is Johnny Cage viable, but he's a problem. And IDOM did that at Evo with Laura. Even though he plays second, he still showed like, oh, Laura is not just top tier. She is a problem. She's
not even just a problem. She's an MKX character. Like, you are guessing all the time. Yeah, Laura's crazy.
And I like that character. It'd be really cool. And just throwing this out there, it'd be really cool to see. Oh gosh, what is that character? Laura's cousin,
Sean.
It would be really cool to see Sean play like Laura in Street Fighter 6 as a DLC character. I think that would be cool. I'd really.
That's Jenga's character, actually. Jenga's a big Sean fan.
Yeah, my son plays Sean. He loves playing Sean, even though he's like the worst character in the game.
Well, that's one reason why I'm kind of down on Street Fighter 6. And I guess this is a good segue because we'll do with Street Fighter what we did with Strive. But I think the fact there's no third strike characters and there's no alpha characters and there's no Street Fighter 5 characters in the Street Fighter 6 roster is just unbelievably disheartening in my opinion. And it's like, when is Sean? I mean, Sean is not even on top of the list, to be honest with you. It's Q. Q should have been back like 20 years ago, man. But like, I don't even see how you're gonna get Sean in there. And like, you already had Sean's sister, and she didn't come back. So I feel like in many ways, everyone just loses in that situation.
Yeah,
no one wins.
So you're not happy with the roster
with Street Fighter 6? No, I'm not.
That's funny because I'm stoked about the roster.
I mean, I kind of like, I don't want to talk about Luke all night. I don't want to talk about Blanca's face all night. But like,
yeah, I understand.
It's like, imagine they made a new Mortal Kombat game and there was no representation from the 3D era or from Mortal Kombat 3 or from Mortal Kombat X. Like, what?
Yeah.
Because Alpha wasn't the small game series. Alpha wasn't like this niche Street Fighter game that no one had ever heard of. Alpha is like Cody was an Alpha. Sakura was an Alpha. I'm sorry, man, but you get the idea.
I get it. No, I completely understand. So for me, what I see is with Street Fighter 6 is totally what Matsumoto and is it Nagasaki? What's his name?
I don't know their names.
Yeah, Nakasaki, I think is his name, or I forgot their names. I know one of them's Matsumoto, but both of them, the creators, are like, okay, we want to bring back the fun element that was in Street Fighter 2 that you get to play with your friends, and I respect that, and that's why I'm really stoked about the game, because they're bringing back the element of fun that's been missing from fighting games for a long, long time, and they're, I think they're taking a good calculated risk, which is something that Mortal Kombat does not do. And to compare the two, because that's what we're doing, is Mortal Kombat doesn't take... MK11, they took poor risks. They took risks that completely demolished the confidence of the fans of the game. Now, take note, we're talking like Mortal Kombat fans. We're not talking about general public, because what the creators of Street Fighter are doing right now is, you can tell they're trying to make Street Fighter again appeal to the general public, which is what it used to do back in the 90s. And it hasn't appealed to the general public for a long time. Mortal Kombat appeals to the general public, but it hasn't appealed to the fans. And probably since it did a little bit in MKX, but in MK9, dude, it was like, it was as if the fans were like, here's our game, this is great, Mortal Kombat's back and it's better than ever. And then MK11 came by and we're like, okay, all the things that you liked about MK9, yeah, let's just get rid of that. Let's just throw that out the front door, because this is what we're doing now. And it, kind of like what you said a long time ago, like everything felt very forced. Because that's kind of how I felt. Like, I hate to bring it up, but like the Sindel retcon, like for fans, that was garbage. But for storytelling wise, it's like, if you're not a MK fan, that sounds awesome.
I think we're still years away from really knowing what MK11 even was. I still don't. I'm with you. I don't really know who that game was for. I will say I appreciate them fixing a lot of the problems in MKX. It's a shame that there were new problems introduced, which essentially, for me at least, ruined the game. But they did get rid of the 50-50s. They did add defensive options. So I don't want to sound ungrateful, but like everything else, like the sad thing is, I think the bad things were for us. I think they thought we wanted an evil Sindel. And I hate to say it, but some people did. I mean, those people are weird, but they did.
Because when I had Shinobi on and we talked about it, he really liked it. And he's a huge MK fan. And so I was just like, dude, I was like, I like, respectfully, sure. I think that's, if you like it, that's great. And I'm glad you liked it, but I freaking hated it. So,
well, even when I heard him talking, it sounded more to me like he thought it worked more than he actually thought like it was an improvement, because it doesn't, like I said, I don't want to misquote him, but it doesn't sound like he knows the MK3 story behind Sindel, because if he did, I don't know how he would reconcile that with MK11. But like, I want to be careful though, because he's not here to defend himself. So I definitely, I especially don't want to put words in his mouth.
He's definitely a fan, but like you said, it was like I don't want to say I think he genuinely liked it. That from what we talked about, it sounded like he genuinely was just like, this is this is a good story. But yeah,
I guess I would need more data from him. I would need to ask him questions. I'd be like, so like,
now, I want to dwell on like what Shinobi said, but I do want to, because out of respect, it's like, if you liked it, that's great. I'm glad you liked it. Personally, I hated it, but like you said, it's like years down the road. Are we gonna? Because we can. It's 2023, and I'm playing a game from 2004. Because Deception was for the fans, and not only was it was for it was all the legacy characters that were in it were done justice, and it introduced a lot of new characters that were a part of it. And here's the other thing too that I really want to see that anime fighters get right. All the anime fighters for the most part get right. Is I'm kind of over the tournament thing. I would hope that I know that in the next Mortal Kombat they're probably I think this is probably what they're going to do is that it's probably going to be the Great Kung Lao is going to go against probably Shang Tsung, and they're going to do that story, and that would be cool and everything. But I am kind of the one thing I did like about MKX and MK11 was they kind of steered away from the tournament and kind of focused on the conflict that goes on within the universe. And anime fighters do a great job with it because I can't think of an anime fighter that does tournaments,
Yeah, it's been a while for Guilty Gear. Guilty Gear has not done a tournament since the very first Guilty Gear game. And Guilty Gear 2 was a bounty. There wasn't really an official tournament anymore. It was just a bunch of characters trying to kill Dizzy. So yeah, I mean, you're correct in the Guilty Gear side. I don't really have any requests or wants or hopes for MK12 story. So I would like a tournament just because I don't think we ever really got the tournament arc done right. But I think even if they did what I wanted, I don't think we're going to be on the same page when it comes to how that should or should not go, right?
Right.
So, but to circle back though, Street Fighter 6. So you've played quite a bit. It sounds like you've played at least a few hours of the game.
Oh, Street Fighter 6?
Yeah, the beta.
Oh yeah, I played all 3 days, 4 days it was on.
It sounds like you liked it quite a bit more than Street Fighter 5.
Yeah, I told you that before we started recording. I was like, once Street Fighter 6 comes out, I will forget Street Fighter 5, like altogether. It was that fun to me.
Well, say more, because I think Street Fighter 6 is probably, all things considered, the better game. But like, what was the big thing what made you think, wow, this is clearly better than Street Fighter 5? Like, this is where I'm putting my money come June. Street Fighter 5 is yesterday's game.
Aesthetically, I thought it looked really pleasing. I think they really fixed a lot of the things with the characters. For instance, Juri's gosh, what's her system called? I always forget.
Oh, yeah, even if I knew it, I can't pronounce it.
Feng Shui, is it? Yeah, Feng Shui system. Like I like that you don't have to store it anymore. Like you store it still, but it's like you store it if you want to use it more and give it kind of buffs it. Like if you want to go from like one special to another, then you have to store it. I really like that they brought back the level 1, 2, and 3 supers, and the parry system I thought was really good. And I also like the idea that it's the entire concept of the game altogether is going to be about what is it? It just everything is going to revolve around meter management, around restoring your meter, around burnout. I like the idea of burnout. I like the idea. It's like, oh, I'm going to blow all, I'm going to burn through all my fuel and come out strong, and that's not going to work well for me, especially for those super aggressive people. And I'm an aggressive style player. you know. So I think that was pretty cool. Just all the mechanics that are implemented into the game were really fun, and I thought it was pretty much like a more perfected It was a perfected Street Fighter 5, and they took all the good things from Street Fighter 4 and implemented it all into one game.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, there's some things I would disagree on that, but I think the more important thing is that you wanted to play the game more, and you were excited to play the game more. So I guess now
as soon as it went up for pre-order, I was like, take my money. I was like,
a lot of people. Natsa was the same way. Natsa's already pre-ordered the game as well.
Yeah, and it's really funny on Twitter. I should have taken a picture of it, but if you go on Twitter, it's everybody's talking about how expensive it is, and then there's me who's like, shut up and take my money. Like,
yeah, I've never sweated the price of fighting games just because the amount of hours I put into a fighting game, I get every dollar back no matter what they charge.
Oh yeah, easily. So, even if you played it for just like 10 hours, it's like, if you think about it right there, it's like if you pay $60 for a game. I mean, now I think the general consensus is 70, but even so, it's like, okay, even if you played for 10 hours, that's $7 an hour. You know,
I feel that way about DLC too. Same equation and everything. Yeah. I mean, I always said before Injustice 2 came out, I would pay $200 for Blue Beetle and Injustice 1. I think that's before Scorpion came out. I probably would have felt differently had that been afterwards. But did you play the beta for MK11?
Yeah.
Did you have played against each other in the beta for MK11?
Yeah, we
played
against
Street Fighter 6.
No, we played against each other, and remember, I was like, I don't know if you remember because it was years ago, but I was like, bro, doesn't this feel so surreal? And you're like, dude, this is awesome. And this is before we learned how bad MK11 was.
I remember playing your Frost. After
I played Jade.
The game came out.
I played Jade in the beta, and I think you were playing Johnny Cage.
Man, I did the same thing to Randy because he played his Grodd and with Injustice 2 in 2017. And I remember the set. I forgot it was him though, because there was no Discord yet. So I knew Randy mostly from the comments and whatnot. So yeah, I guess I did it again. Crap, that's.
And I remember we did the whole thing where everybody was like, you know, we're gonna play against. If you wanted to play against each other, you would skip matchmaking over and over and over again until you finally got matched with the person you wanted.
Oh, that I remember, because I remember I finally got brusque, and then I actually pressed respin.
Yeah,
and I lost him, and everyone made fun of me for like 5 minutes in the call. So, man, I'll be honest with you, I have no memory of playing you in the MK11 beta.
That's fine.
No memory. Well, it's also unfortunate. I wish I did remember that. I would have liked to remember that.
Must have not been that memorable. But it's a beta.
No.
Who cares? It's fine.
My memory's trash. I don't
care.
I want to have good memory like 20 years from now. So this is what I got to work with.
It's like, oh shoot, remember that time? We're probably going to remember this moment more than we will the actual beta. So,
you know what I think the problem is? I think the fact that you played Jade kind of like sealed the fate of me not remembering this, because there were so many Jade players back then. I imagine I played Scarlet, but I can't remember which beta it was. Oh so my gosh. I was going to say though,
I was just going to say I played MK9 the other day, and I was playing Scarlet, and I was just like, oh man, they did her so dirty in MK11. Like as far as the gameplay as far as the mechanics of Scarlet goes, dude, she was so much fun in MK9.
I like them both for different reasons. I think if Serena, I haven't seen your Serena video yet, but that's in my queue right now. I say they bring back Serena. I'm okay giving that style to her, and just letting Scarlet be like the Street Fighter 4 Rose of Mortal Kombat. I'm okay
Rushdown character Serena.
Yeah.
When you if you watch the video, that's literally what I say. I was like, if you want a really good template to go off of, like a good influence to go off of the way I would think Serena would play, it's literally MK9 Scarlet.
Yeah, and I mean, Scarlet had some of that stuff first, so I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though, So how would you compare your MK11 beta experience with your Street Fighter 6 beta experience?
As we've said before, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. So when I was playing MK11, it was very, that's a hard one, because in MK11 I was playing a lot of Jade during beta, and I was having a lot of fun with that character, and it's a very different character than I usually play too, because like I said, I play like Katana and Nightwolf and Sindel, kind of those mid. I mean, Nightwolf is very like aggressive, but I like the mid range characters, more aggressive characters, and so it was a lot of fun with those, and I was like learning the new thing. And I remember you pointed out, you're like, oh my gosh, there's actually like there's hit confirms, and so I was getting used to I was getting used to that, and that was very different for a Mortal Kombat game to actually have hit confirm. So it was a lot of fun. I was just enjoying it. I was enjoying the way it looked and everything. And MK11 in general was really weird for me, because it took me a long time to finally tell myself, like I was trying to force myself to like it and find all the things to enjoy about it. And it took me a while before I finally was just like, dude, this just isn't an enjoyable game. I want to like it, but it's not enjoyable. Versus the first time I loaded up Street Fighter 5, I was like, and I'm sorry, in comparison to MKX, and I played hours of MKX. Hours and hours of MKX. I enjoyed MKX thoroughly. But if you go to Street Fighter 5, I was in love with that game the first time I loaded it up. And then I played Street Fighter 6, and it's like things carried over. So it was really easy to pick up, and it was really easy to enjoy, because I already knew the gameplay mechanics. I already knew how to play Jury. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to, try all the things that I knew with Jury, kind of figure out the different things. So there's a lot of familiarity with it, even though some of the mechanics were different, like the parry, the meter management, like we said. But I like the idea of like, oh, there's level 1, 2, and 3 supers and everything. So it's like, it definitely felt more complete. That's the cool thing about Street Fighter 6. It felt like it felt almost like a completed game at that point, where Mortal Kombat 11 didn't feel like a completed game.
My theory is the game actually is complete, and it's coming out in June for purely marketing reasons.
Oh,
that's my theory, at least.
100%. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, the game. I liked Street Fighter 6 a lot more in the first beta, less so in the second beta, but I still think it's a very good game. But yeah, just options, and also the MK11 beta was kind of a mirage, because all the cool combos I was doing, it wasn't obvious yet that Breakaway was going to mitigate all the things I actually did like about the game. Street Fighter 6, we figured out Rage Drive fairly quickly. Rage Drive, holy crap. Drive Impact. We figured out Drive Impact very quickly.
I think Drive Impact that's probably one thing they're going to have to mess with a little bit. I feel like it's overused.
Yeah, it's so there's the conversation around Drive Impact is very complex. I think a lot of people who are defending it are saying true things in a way to convey something that's, in my opinion, kind of disingenuous. When people say, "Oh, Drive Impact is not even a factor at high level," like you never see it at high level; it just goes away. Which is technically true. It's like maybe 50% true. Like, trust me, you're going to see Drive Impact in top 8. Trust me. But the part I think that where the dishonesty comes in is the reason why you're not seeing it at high level is because everyone's built a strategy around not getting hit by Drive Impact, and they built a strategy in terms of seeing what their opponent does and asking themselves, what is my opponent doing right now that I can exploit with Drive Impact, right? So once that becomes the dominant sort of like playbook for both players, you're not going to see it anymore. It's too dangerous. And everyone has built a strategy on not getting hit by it. So I compare it to like Super Dash and Dragon Ball Fighters. I think the only difference is like the answers to Drive Impact are much stronger then the answer is just super dash, right? So super dash can never really go away because of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't remember why I said all that, but yeah, Drive Impact is going to be interesting.
It is. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I just think it needs to be tweaked a little bit. That's all.
Would you want something like Drive Impact in MK12?
No, I wouldn't. I feel like it's a Street Fighter thing, and I would rather have something like counters from Guilty Gear Strive.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you put anything like Drive Impact into MK12, that is going to color your game. It's going to color any game that has that. Because it's such a powerful mechanic, and it has such drastic consequences on the round. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the run button too. Like, it's not that I don't like the run button; it's just that is going to color your game, right? So, yeah,
it's definitely going to give. It's what the run button is. What is going to determine the speed of the game, for sure.
Yeah.
And as we can see with MKX, it was extremely fast. Mortal Kombat 3, extremely fast. So the moment you put that in there, sure. To be honest, I don't even like the idea that they gave like one or two characters a run mechanic in Mortal Kombat 11. Like they gave Jade a run mechanic. I thought that was kind of silly.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they gave like one or two characters. I don't know. I forgot if they gave another character.
Well, I liked it just because it felt like a throwback because Jade was first playable in UMK3. So I kind of liked it for that reason. But I completely forgot. That's just the nature of customs. I probably forgot most of the options for most characters at this point. But
yeah. And excuse me. This cough drops aren't working. I do. Yeah, there's just some things that about Street Fighter I want to keep Street Fighter. And that's the thing we kind of talked about a little bit before recording, is that Mortal Kombat definitely stands on its own as its own fighting game. It's like its own mechanic, its own thing. Street Fighter, I feel, is very similar in that aspects too. Even though, Mortal Kombat, you said, you pointed out, and I agree with, it does take a lot of influence from Tekken, particularly MK9. But I still, there are just things that are about MK that I want to keep MK. Same thing with Street Fighter, that there are things about Street Fighter that I want to keep Street Fighter that I don't want other games to implement.
And there is one thing in Street Fighter 5 that is not in Street Fighter 6 that I would like to see in MK12. And that's big plus frames from like normal buttons. That I really felt like making everything negative in Street Fighter 6 it's kind of like Breakaway. It doesn't feel bad now because everyone's still mentally playing Street Fighter 5. But when people start, checking you on a blocked medium punch, it's going to turn into like scramble after scramble after scramble. So in MK11, you did have good plus frames, but they were usually locked behind a flawless block gap. So I would like to see that gone. I would like to see good plus frames without having to guess to use them.
Yeah, and I feel like Street Fighter 5 did a really good job with that.
Did a great job on that. Yeah, that's my favorite part of that game.
Yeah, is if you were exploited during the exchanges, that was your fault. And that's what I really like about Street Fighter 5. Everything that, if you lost at all in that game, I mean, that goes a lot with a lot of fighting games as well, but particularly with Street Fighter 5, if you lost, it's not because they were better, it's because you were worse. It was all. That is one of my favorite things about Street Fighter 5. It's also the most frustrating thing. I get more mad playing Street Fighter 5 than any other fighting game. I
can believe that, yeah.
And the reason why is because I don't get mad if I lost because someone was better than me. I get mad when I lose because because I played bad or I did something wrong. And Street Fighter 5 really, really brings that anger, that temper of mine to light because of that. Because if you lose, it's because it's your fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and sometimes because plus frames are so strong,
Mm-hmm.
your best option is to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing can mean getting thrown 3 times in a row, which is a very real phenomenon in Street Fighter V, right? So, so speaking of things I don't want to see in MK12,
Mm-hmm.
don't create a very dominant throw meta. I think that's good for some games, but let's not do that again.
Let's get rid of down kick too, in that matter, down punch.
Oh, actually, I like that because that actually mitigated the throw game. Well, it goes back to counter hits, right? It's like, oh, you want to throw me? Well, now this is happening. And then I get a big juicy combo, or I get 2 hits of a big juicy combo before they break away.
I really like if you tried to throw and you did a down 2, you got a crushing blow. I thought that was one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that's great.
It just goes back to the Guilty Gear Strive counter system. It felt very similar.
And I think you have really good staggers in Guilty Gear without having to worry about a constant throw guessing game. Now, that's not to say that throws are not powerful in Strive. Throws are very powerful in Strive, especially with Roman cancels, right?
Yeah.
So, but nonetheless, though, you can actually stagger with Kai, and you can delay your normals and they still link without having to worry about pretty significant gaps, usually. Yeah, I think that's really good. The problem is with MK11, you couldn't divorce the stagger game from the throw game. They were just permanently intertwined, and that's what I didn't like. Yeah, and everyone's going to blame staggers, right? And I'm like, no, let's keep staggers. Don't get rid of staggers.
There was a couple of characters where you can get away with those kinds of staggers. For instance, Cassie Cage and Katana, they actually did. Particularly like Katana's back one 4, I think is what it was, and in her back 2. You could do, but even though it's like the back 2 was more mid-range, but Cassie Cage also had a lot of good staggers in that respect, but no, not every character had it.
It's been a while, but I can believe it. Kung Lao had some great staggers with Forward 1.
He did. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. So those are, if we're building our custom MK12, I would love a lot of plus frames. I would not love having to take the throw over and over again. In Street Fighter 6, we'll see. I do.
I do have
like
a question.
Mid-range. Oh yeah.
Absolutely. How would you feel about throws done in the way of anime fighters compared to, so like in Mortal Kombat, it's like there's back and forward throw, and I like that. And same thing with most other games. So there's back and forth throw. However, in Street Fighter, it's like there's only one button for throw, or there's one button for throw defense. So it's like if someone throws, you don't have to guess which way they're throwing. It's like you just hit. You hit the throw button to defend it, and that's it.
I think I would like. I mean, Soul Calibur is the middle ground between that. With Soul Calibur, you have one button throw breaks, and so if they're doing a forward throw, you hit a button. If they're doing a back throw, you hold back in a button. So you don't have the dyslexia nightmare, right? Because the directionals don't change depending on what side of the screen you're on. A back throw is still back throw no matter which way you're facing. So if you have even a little bit of dyslexia like I do, throw breaks are a nightmare in the last 3 Mortal Kombat games. So I'm okay with Street Fighter 5ing the system. I think that's fine. I don't really want to see MK11 bring back what they did. Or, I mean, really, it's been bad for years. But
yeah, I agree with you. I think the throw system is absolute garbage, and I've always hated it. And it wasn't that bad in MKX or MK9. But in MK11, it was garbage, and I hated it. So to Street Fighter 5 it, or pretty much any other anime fighter out there, it's like I would much rather just hit throw for defense. Yeah, if you're going to call it, because I don't like the idea of like guessing which way they're going to throw. So it's
Soul Calibur is also not as bad too. Because,
no, just saying, especially with how strong the throws were.
And what I was saying about Soul Calibur is with Soul Calibur, you can't just run up and throw someone. Like you have characters who are like giant sword wielders, staff wielders. You have Ivy who uses a whip. So it's not practical just to run up and throw someone to death. Now, that's not to say it never happens. That's not to say I've never done it, but it's not the norm, right?
Right.
So we've covered Strive, we've covered Street Fighter 5, we've covered Street Fighter 6. We'll cover DNF Duel real quick. I guess I'll start off. One thing I would really like to see from DNF Duel is the return of really long stick combos.
I agree. And real fast, from what I was told, was that originally MK11, Ed Boon wanted to do away with the long, big combos. He didn't like that. And then at the last, like, 6 months before, like 6 months into development, he changed it. He was just like, oh, no, let's do the combos. So it's like when you play Mortal Kombat 11, you're just like, if that's true, I don't know if that's all true. But if that is true, you can tell.
I remember you saying that on another podcast. I don't remember who it was with, but I do remember bringing that up. It makes sense. And you know what? I'll be real with you. I don't even think that's the worst thing in the world. Like, my bread and butter in Street Fighter V is standing punch, crouching medium kick, into special. And that's fine.
That's pretty much Cammy. That's all.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of characters,
that's
man.
Yeah, okay.
That is a ton of characters. So it's not a bad thing either.
No, not at all.
Not a bad thing at all.
No.
That's my Ryu combo. That's my Sakura combo. Gosh, Street Fighter V Sakura is so sick. Yeah, so I would say, like, maybe make them. I think one problem with DNF Duel is the combos are a little too easy. I mean, there are exceptions to that. Like, Kunoichi, her combos are actually a pain in the ass. So, like, that should have been the standard, in my opinion. So if you're going to put someone in a combo for 30 minutes, it should probably be a little more difficult than what they did in DNF. And I think the perfect balance was Kunoichi. And I guess to some, Vanguard can be a little difficult depending on the spacing. Where you start the combo can determine the difficulty of the combo. But that's one of the things I love about DNF is that it has a lot of the fun combo options of, like, a Marvel game, Marvel versus Capcom game. But what makes Marvel games so difficult is the mobility. And DNF is just like, don't worry about that. We'll let you do fun Marvel combos, and you can play Street Fighter in between. Or some weird hybrid of KOF, Street Fighter, Guilty Gear. But you're not doing, like, triangle dashes like you would in Marvel 2. So I don't know. I would say combos, but yeah, go on.
No, it was that's one thing that was one of my favorite things about both MK9 and MKX was the flashy combos. And more so MKX. MKX had the big flashy combos, the big 40 to 45% combos that I really liked. I thought that was really cool. You can get like a good 30 to 35%er in Mortal Kombat 11, and that would be really fun to do. But I would like to see it come back as kind of like the first thing that we talked about in this podcast was how much I loved Kai with his dragon install in his Ride the Lightning. It was so badass, you know what I mean? So that's something I kind of like to see implemented in that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think there's, as far as combos, there's almost nowhere to go but up. So
yeah, and even if it's going to be like Xrd too, because Xrd had some long combos and it was like really big flashy combos, but they still they took down 30% damage. They didn't take down your entire meter like it does in DNF Duel or Strive.
I think that's probably one of the only 1.5 things I would take from DNF Duel, unfortunately, even though I love that game. I think most of the other things I like from that game don't really belong in a Mortal Kombat installment, with maybe the exception of Lockdown. There was a lot of Lockdown in MKX, really a bunch of Lockdown in MKX.
Yeah.
Tremor and Predator and Quan Chi. But
Tremor was so hard to get out of the corner.
Yeah, he was a monster. Triborg had quite a bit of Lockdown as well.
Sub-Zero was probably the worst.
Oh, the clone, yeah. His corner game was so weird. I don't know what podcast I said on, but he's basically the Armika of MKX. It's so weird with that corner game. MK11 did have Lockdown, but not the good kind. It had the Cetrion kind, which is basically just like create an obstacle course for someone to kind of chill out on. I don't really. When you're playing against
Cetrion, it's pretty much like a platform game at that point.
Yeah. It's Mega Man 2, right?
Yeah.
So Brimec offensive Lockdown. I think MK11 had more than enough zoning Lockdown. I would like to see Kung Lao have Lockdown strategies with his orbital. which you kind of sort of did already have because you can do forward 1-3. And even though there is a flawless block gap, because it's multi-hitting, you can't up 3 it, or you can't up 2 it especially. So I would say, like, let more offensive characters have sort of like offensive pressure, like a Zato. Doesn't have to be the standard, but I would like to have that option in there. I don't, if they're like, hey, we brought back Lockdown, and it's just Cetrion throwing rocks, I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, I can agree.
And that's about it. Like, I love Vanguard Lockdown in DNF Duel, but I don't really want to take anything else from DNF Duel in that regard. I definitely don't want to bring, like, it's not Instinct. What is it called in DNF? Awakening. Yeah, let's keep that out. That made the game a little too crazy in a good way, almost. Yeah.
What do you think about wake ups, though? So I felt like the wake ups was good in MK9. I felt like it was also good in MKX as well, even though it was a little bit different. But MK11 is like there was a lot of different options for wake ups. But I don't know. I kind of liked MK11's wake ups.
I'm fairly neutral on it.
Because they were balanced. That's the only reason why.
Well, the big complaint about MK11 wake ups is that, Oki was too unpredictable. It was too hard to pressure someone on knockdowns, so knockdowns just didn't feel as valuable. And all I can say to that, dude, is, like, not every game has to have strong Okizeme. And that just is what it is. Because even if you do get pressure and you get a mix and you get a combo, they can still break out of it. There's still breakaway. So, yeah, there's so many wake-up options. There's roll. There's up 3, up 2. Mashing down 1 was viable, very viable for like the first year of the game. Excuse me.
Right.
So I think people have this notion that you shouldn't be able to easily get off the ground in a fighting game. And in a lot of fighting games, Street Fighter V, like, not only was the throw game so strong and shimmies were so powerful, but if you didn't have meter, you essentially did not have a wake up game, virtually speaking. Now, I know, like, some DPs had, like, anti-standing properties and anti-crouching properties, a bunch of obscure stuff that no one really uses. They usually just use bar meter, right? But yeah, so I don't have a problem with MK11 wake-up game because I don't really think every game needs to have strong knockdown options. Like, Guilty Gear Xrd is character dependent, but doesn't, like, you're not really throwing someone on wake-up usually, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention was movement, because I feel like this is going to kind of take a little bit off topic, but I feel like MK has a very easy movement to the way things move in Mortal Kombat. Same thing with DNF Duel. I feel like the movement's very easy. Strive was a little bit easier than Xrd. But still, the movement is very important. It's one of the most important things about Guilty Gear, but it's also I for new players particularly, I think is going to be really hard. And Mortal Kombat's always kind of had an easier movement kind of system. It's just very simple and it's very straightforward. But in the last update video for Project L. And that's why I said it's going to take a little bit of a different turn, because with Project L, they showed significant amounts of movement. And that was one of the things with Marvel versus Capcom was the movement was, I felt it was kind of hard. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
no, I absolutely agree with that. I 100% agree with that.
It's really hard. And I think that's one of the things, because Project L, they're marketing, it's a free to play game, but they're also marketing like it's going to be an easy to pick, easy to learn, hard to master kind of thing. And I was like, well, not with a movement system like that. It's not, so it's like their movement in Project L seems very hard to do. Law dashing is a lot of air dashing, a lot of, it's hard. So that's one thing I liked about Mortal Kombat was kind of how simple it was. It was very straightforward.
Well, with Marvel Infinite most recently, I played a lot of characters that didn't really have to utilize the more complex movement options in Marvel. That's not the case in Marvel 1. Now that I'm replaying Marvel vs. Capcom 1 quite a bit, I actually do have to wave dash. And if I don't wave dash, I do not get my punish. That's a big deal. For example, let's say I call Psylocke out as my assist,
Mm-hmm.
and Psylocke hits the opponent. That means I have about maybe 2.5 seconds to confirm into something big. I can do, if I have Venom, I can use Venom Web. But if I have Morrigan and I don't have the meter, I need to chase Psylocke as she's hitting the opponent and do my launcher. And that's just not easy. So I'm kind of using muscle groups I haven't had to use in a while. So, and Tekken's the same way, the Korean backdashing. MK11 dabbled in this by putting a wave dash in their game. I never really used it because most of my personal meta was playing footsies and setting up forward ones and dashing down threes. So I just, as a whole in MK11, I didn't see much use in using the wave dash offensively. So I didn't bother with it. But if that were to become pivotal to success, I still think it'd be okay because Tekken's selling all right. And I mean, if you don't know how to play that game at a sophisticated level, you basically feel like you're underwater.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can see that going both ways. I would personally like to see stronger, more sophisticated movement options. I can't think of an instance where that has ever hurt a game.
Yeah, and
so there's disagreement on that, though. Yeah.
The reason I bring that up is because with Street Fighter, the movement I feel is very easy. Mortal Kombat is also similar in that respects. What's really important to me is making a game very not easy, but I guess easy to pick up, because fighting games in general have not been near as popular to the general public as I think they could be, and definitely not as much as they were back in the 90s. But movements, it's difficult. It's very difficult. It's easier on a D-pad for sure. But when it comes to a new game, it's like I think movement needs to be very, very, particularly with games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, that they need to be very simple in order to get more people to play it. And I bring this up, or what's his name? When I did the podcast with Rooflemonger, he pointed out, Call of Duty, it's like, you can pick it up and point and click, and the movement's very easy. Playing the game's very easy, and that's something I think that Mortal Kombat needs to maintain, is not create this complex movement system that makes it so much to where people are turned off by it.
I guess it depends. I mean, I feel like what Tekken did was kind of a sleight of hand, where it's like, hey, everyone, play Tekken 7. And everyone buys Tekken 7. And unless you go online and make it to yellow ranks, maybe even early green ranks possibly, you're not even going to know what a green backdash looks like. So I think as long as you don't force people, if you don't rub it in their face, if you can't green backdash, you're dead. So don't do that, right? And Marvel kind of does that because, in Guilty Gear especially does that. Because if you're new to the game and you jump into a lobby with seasoned players, it's just going to be they're going to be doing beelines around you. They're going to be hitting you at all different angles. And it's probably not going to be a lot of fun. Tekken's much easier because Tekken just looks like two dude bros punching each other if you don't know what the game's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it would be okay for them to do crazy movement options, as long as they don't make it prerequisite. Or let me rephrase that: as long as they don't make it obviously prerequisite, where you were just openly excluded if you don't learn the difficult thing.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
But we don't have a lot of data on the Marvel guys because no one bought Marvel Infinite but me and you. So it's I don't even know who to ask. It's like, hey, what do you think of Marvel Infinite? And that person's not there because he doesn't exist. Yeah. They didn't buy it.
And I liked it, and the wave dash, the air dash, and everything. I even like the fact that what's her name? Morgan. Even her, her jump. It's always been the same thing, but I forgot what it's even called, to be honest. But It sounds like a vacuum cleaner whenever she jumps in. But anyway, but yeah, it's like I like that there's like unique takes on it and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the only reason I bring up movement, because I feel like movement's probably one of the hardest aspects of any fighting game in general is movement. But it's also, to me, it's the make or break. It's like if I was brand new to fighting games, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat for sure. It was like those are really easy. It's particularly Street Fighter. It's like it's easy to pick up. You can really dive deep into a character if you want to, even the simpler characters, such as Ryu and Cammy, but there's harder characters and everything. So it's like you can pick up more and more and more as you grow with the game, versus like Guilty Gear. It's like if you don't know how to air dash, it's almost impossible, even at the lower levels.
Yeah,
there's a huge learning curve.
It's impossible to compete with someone who has experience if you don't know like the basics of air dashing. Maybe not. You may not have to do instant air dashing, but you have to at least know. You have to know what your options are after doing an air dash at the very least, and that's not the easiest thing to learn. It took me months, right?
Mm-hmm.
On a fun side note, though, this isn't immediately relevant to anything, but my team, my primary in Marvel 1 is Venom Morrigan. And what makes Morrigan very unique in that game, it might also be true of Marvel 2, I can't remember, but definitely in Marvel 1, is that it's one of the very few games in history where Morrigan has a ground dash. And that's super important to me because in Marvel Infinite, I'm pretty sure this was also true in Marvel 3. I may re-download that tonight. In Marvel Infinite, your ground dash is an air dash. It's like Eno from Guilty Gear. And that's cool and all. Like that had me for cross-ups and for overheads. That's fantastic. But it makes like traditional, like neutral rushdown kind of difficult for me, because the fact that she has a ground dash means I can start my my offense with a crouching low. And that's really important when you want to mix that up with overhead options. So I've been having so much fun with Morrigan. I think Morrigan is a freaking blast in that game. She's supposedly the worst in the game. Supposedly.
Yeah. I was never a big Marvel versus Capcom fan, so I don't have the wherewithal to say whether or not. The only one I really got into was Infinite.
And I'd be open to playing Infinite with you one day. The only barrier is that I don't want to buy it again for PC. That's the only reason why I didn't run sets with you. But I really like Infinite. Fun. I think Infinite's a very good game.
No, it is. Which is a bummer, because I that's one thing I hate. Right, DNF Duel, Marvel Infinite. What was the other one?
Strive?
No, Dead or Alive 6.
Oh yes,
dude. All these games, they're fantastic games, and they died so quickly.
Oh, Dead or Alive was a netcode thing for sure.
Yeah.
DNF is like offline. It's doing okay. I think it's the online that's suffering.
So
everyone's in a Discord match.
Yeah, and I wanted to. That was another thing I wanted to bring up was marketing. So the one thing that I can tell you, a big thing that was different with the beta, with more, to bring back the Mortal Kombat 11 beta versus the Street Fighter 6 beta and how I felt about it, was that the beta was pretty quick after the announcement, and the release was pretty quick after the beta with Mortal Kombat 11. So the hype was really high. And that's one of the biggest things that kept me interested and kept me hyped about it, and kept me, kept the dopamine high for Mortal Kombat 11 versus Street Fighter 6. The dopamine was really high on all this announcement, but the game has pretty much been in a marketing cycle for it's going to be almost a year, like over a year. Like I think it was January of 2022 when it was announced. So
I think that was an error personally, but go on.
Yeah, but the point is that, finally we got beta 1, then they got beta 2. I don't even know if they're going to do a beta 3. I hope they do. That'd be kind of cool. I would be okay if they didn't, really. But DNF is struggling with the same exact thing right now, which is the marketing cycle. One thing I really hope with Mortal Kombat is when they do finally announce it, and assuming that it's a Mortal Kombat game, we still don't know. But I hope that what I would hope is that they make an announcement sometime within the next 1 or 2 months, and You get to see a full gameplay and a trailer and a sit down like they did with Harada at the Game Awards, where it takes like 15-20 minutes to go over the game at E3, and then October has a release date. That's what I hope that they do. To me, that seems that's a fair marketing cycle, and it keeps you hyped up on it. As hyped as I am for Street Fighter 6, it's already kind of worn off, and DNF is facing the same fate as well. To be honest, I don't even know if this next season pass or battle pass, whatever they're going to do, is going to do anything for the game, because the game is already kind of like fallen super short for player base. Inspector looks super cool, but they have not announced any other characters in that. They have not shown any Spectre gameplay at all since the announcement, and it's been almost 3 months since they did. It's like you got to get on it at this point. Like there are too many good fighting games out right now, and too many good games that are going to be coming out for you to struggle in your marketing campaign.
I just don't really know, like, with Street Fighter 6, I really do think the game was supposed to be out by now, but they didn't want to compete with themselves with Resident Evil 4, right? That's what I think happened. So, but you're right.
You think that they would compete?
No, I don't. I actually don't think they would.
I don't think they would either. I think that's completely two separate games that have nothing to do with one another and that do not compete against each other whatsoever. Maybe in Japan, but I don't know about not here.
Well, if I were to steelman the other side of the argument, let's say Capcom was in the call with us and they were like, "Hey, you look." Yes, normally
two
the
idiots. You two idiots that know nothing about it.
Stupid Americans. Yeah, it's just so like, look, yes, they normally don't overlap. Fighting game players are fighting gamers, and Resident Evil players, Resident Evil players. But you two are missing.
When it comes to Street Fighter, I would disagree with that one, and Mortal Kombat as well. I think the general public in the first 3 to 6 months are going to pick up the game, so I can kind of see where they would come from with that one.
Exactly, you beat me to it, right? That's exactly.
I'm sorry.
So the angry Japanese executive who's yelling at us in this Discord call would say
that would sound so cool.
Yeah, they're intense over there.
I know it's about. The Japanese language can sound so beautiful and so aggressive at the same time.
Yeah, it's frightening.
It is.
I think there's it's probably like drifted into legend at this point, but apparently the voice actor for one of the Devil May Cry characters had to go to Japan and kneel down and apologize for leaking something. I don't know how true that is, but yeah, I think he leaked a game coming out. But so what their thesis is going to be that the whole point of Street Fighter 6 is to lure in and get the sales of Resident Evil 4 players. That's the whole point of the game's design. So that's why if they're not competing with each other, then we did something wrong. Now, my counter argument to that is that in terms of demand, that I don't think the time allotted to Resident Evil 4 would even mix in properly with Street Fighter 6. As a matter of fact, I think they can complement each other. I think you can play Street Fighter 6, or you could use a time, because your friends are not always going to be available. So you use that time to play Street Fighter 4, and there's almost like a symbiotic relationship between these two things, right?
More or less. With the whole Explore Metro City thing, it's like you can get your adventure fix there.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of that, though. The Conquest mode in Street Fighter 6. We'll see. I'm not. My hopes are not high for that.
I'm gonna play it because I'm curious, but I don't know. It doesn't look like graphically, it doesn't look that great.
I don't know what the new player is supposed to be lured in by, right? Because it's like, look, single player content, and I'm like, every single player game in the history of single player games has single player content. Like, what? Okay, you get to beat up a car, great. What do you want the new player to do?
Yeah.
Like, what's the big selling point? That I get to talk to Luke? Like, what are you trying to sell what are you trying to sell the Resident Evil 4 player with? And the Street Fighter 6 Conquest mode, right? And I don't know. I haven't seen an answer to that, really. So I don't know. I mean, I'd love to be wrong. I would love for all fighting games to have good single player content. but
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it yet. I don't see what the appeal is, and it doesn't look like in the Discord he was really talking about anything specific. So I don't know. I just don't know.
Neither do I.
But even if they're right,
yeah.
even if the Resident Evil 4 player was like, I would have bought Street Fighter 6, but I only have enough money just for one copy of Resident Evil 4. I guess I won't buy Street Fighter 6. Like, okay, well, is this better?
Mm-hmm.
Is people completely forgetting about Street Fighter 6 being a thing better? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a lose-lose to me, but yeah.
No, I don't really have anything on that. I mean, I do see your point for sure. In fact, I agree with it, but there's not even a but. I mean, like, it's kind of weird because I see the people who are playing Resident Evil are very different than people who are playing Street Fighter.
Unless they're Capcom fanboys, but I think that I don't see that like I used to like 10 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the real solution would have been to release Street Fighter 6 in January and then have that kind of like warm up the gaming community for Resident Evil 4. It's like, I know you're looking forward to Resident Evil 4, which is undeniable the more popular release, right? This would have been something to chew on, yeah?
I would disagree with that one because I think the longevity of Street Fighter 6 would last a lot longer because you only play Resident Evil until you beat the game. I mean, unless of course you wanted to go back and do it over again and stuff, and that's cool if that's what you like to do. But with Street Fighter, there's a little bit more longevity than just playing it through.
For us, that's correct. For like you and me, we're gonna be playing Street Fighter 6 into 2024. But for like little Joey, who's just like marking his calendar for Resident Evil 4, I think he would have greatly benefited from a Street Fighter 6 January release.
Mm-hmm.
Where he just wants to do like electricity with Blanca, right?
Yeah.
Or he wants to do head stops with Chun-Li. So I think it just depends. Really, the equation all depends on who is the Resident Evil 4 player. Guys, it's so hard to say Resident Evil 4 for some reason. I keep stumbling on that. But yeah, so
RE4. You can just say RE4.
RE4, yeah. I gotta laugh that.
Yeah.
Before we take off, and I do have to take off in a few minutes here.
Yeah,
go on, yeah?
No, I didn't say anything.
What do you have like a game plan of how you want to approach Tekken before Tekken 8 comes out?
To be honest, I don't think Tekken's going to come out for like another year or two. I don't think it's going to be a 2023 release. I think it's probably going to be like late 2024.
Yeah, I'm alone in that army. I'm the only one who thinks it's coming out in 2023, but I could be wrong. I'm open to being wrong about that. But
a lot of my perspective has changed with a lot over the past years, and not even past year, probably since I started actually content creating. Like, you know, originally when I started content creating is because I wanted to make not necessarily like a specific Project L like YouTube channel, but it was definitely centered around that at first. And one of the reasons why was because based off of Riot Games' history of game releases is like once they announce a game, it's probably going to be released in the next 6 months or 8 months. They did that with Legends of Runeterra. They did that with Valorant. So I figured Project L was probably going to be the same, and that was definitely not the case. In fact, I don't think that game is going to come out for probably another 2 years now. Initially, I thought it was going to be a 2023 release, and I highly, highly doubt that it's even going to be a 2024. It's probably going to be like early 2025. And that's another thing that's why I brought up the marketing thing from earlier, is like, I really wanted a lot of people think that Project L is going to be this big beacon of hope for fighting games. And I certainly hope that's the case, and I would like it to. However, if I would hope that they get an earlier than later release date, because that hype is definitely going to drop down, as we're seeing with Street Fighter 6 right now. And Tekken is the same thing. And you're just going to see the hype drop, and it's going to keep it's DNF is falling to this fate right now as well. Like right now I'm riding high off of Guilty Gear, you know, and having a good time with that. But that's really that and Street Fighter. I mean, it's kind of fallen off, but with Capcom Cup going on right now that, you know, that kind of makes me want to play it with June right around the corner. That makes me, you know, it's almost 3 months away, like a little bit more than 3 months away. I mean, what's the date today? Yeah.
17th now.
Yeah, never mind. 4 months away. It's like, it's like I'm having fun with Mortal Kombat Deception, having a lot of fun talking about Mortal Kombat because we all know that something is going to happen like pretty soon. So that hype is building up. You know, there's a lot of big releases, there's a lot of big things happening, and there's a lot of announcements to be made. And I think, to be honest, I think right now, if Street Fighter wants to get that hype going and keep that hype up over the next 4 months, they better be doing a lot of character reveals and a lot of like gameplay reveals of different characters, particularly really popular characters such as Cammy and trying to think who else. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Zangief is one. Yeah.
Zangief. Lily. Yeah, they need to be doing some. I think they need to be doing more to keep that hype high.
I'm hoping that the leak was a fake out. I know that's some tinfoil stuff right there.
The leak?
But yeah, the leak back in June where we found out who the whole roster was.
Dude, they straight up showed a picture of it.
Yeah, well, they leaked a picture of it. So back in June 2022.
Yeah, they leaked a picture, but then they did another trailer, and it literally had a picture of the entire roster.
That was in September.
Yeah.
So that was about 3 months after the leak.
Yeah, no, I'm going off of the picture from the roster in September.
Oh no, you're correct. And I'm hoping that's a fake out, is what I'm saying. I'm hoping the roster is actually bigger than that.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I'd be okay with that roster. That's the thing too. Is like another thing is that we've had Tekken 7 since what, 2017, 2016.
17's right, yeah.
Yeah, so
July 2017.
All right, and we've had Street Fighter 5 since 2016.
Yes, February 2016.
And something I really hope for in the future, because I know that you want to make a game that has a lot of single player content, which is really why I really want Conquest in the game. You know, they need to bring back that fun element. Tag team. Me and Cyborg had a really great conversation about like playing with your friends, bringing tag team back. And I think right there is probably the most important thing with Mortal Kombat, is bringing back that good single player content. They had single player content in Mortal Kombat 11, but as you said, it's like you felt forced. You know, it's like, I got to be on it this time. You know, it's freaking dumb. Yeah. And for the next game, it's like, bring back Conquest mode, bring back tag team, give me ranked tag team. That would be sick. That'd be freaking sick to have, like, you know, have you and Gab Standard versus me and Randy, or even to go on like ranked online to have like me and you put together a team and put together. That's freaking sick. I would love that. I would even like it so much as to where if we even had like, if it was implemented into that. But the biggest thing Mortal Kombat has lacked is dev support in esports as well. And I would really like to see that, because Capcom does it, Tekken does it. A lot of people are looking at Riot Games to save to not save the FGC, but just to bring up the FGC, because we know that they would bring on a lot of big tournaments that are well funded, that's going to have really big prize pools and everything. And I could go on and on about prize pools, because honestly, I think the tournament system is way outplayed, and we need to switch to a different thing for professional players. But that's for a different podcast altogether. But I feel like Mortal Kombat needs to last a lot longer and have a lot more DLC, a lot more single player content, a lot more single player content, and he's have way more things to do with your friends is a big one. And one thing in the last Nethercast I wanted to point out and say was that I actually like disagreed with you guys about the DLC, because I think it was both Shad and Razor said we would not like themed DLC. My idea would be to have all like the classic costumes be unlockable and all like the alternatives costumes be unlockables in the game, and just have a plethora of DLC to where it's like, oh, a spring spring costume, Christmas costume, winter costume, Chinese New Year costume. It's I that's what I would like to see, but it still have like the important ones be unlockable. A
good amount of time has passed since I did that podcast. I don't remember what
it's
I
a week
said.
ago.
I think, that sounds right. So it would have been about a week ago now.
Mm-hmm.
I worry more about the visuals. Like,
mm-hmm.
it's. I think the example we brought up was like Boraicho Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I'm worried about, because Street Fighter V, I think, went too far. I think a lot of that game does look bad because they went a little too crazy with the costumes.
Yeah, a little, yeah.
It was much worse than Street Fighter 4.
Like Mega Man Ryu was weird.
Yeah, it's funny. It is weird, yeah, but but I will say, sometimes if you go too far, you come full circle and it's cool again. For example, Rashid being Airman, that's tight. That's tight, man. That's so sick.
Yeah.
But that's the exception, not the rule. We covered like a lot of topics real quick there, so I do want to circle back.
I did go with a lot of topics, but the main point that I would like to see in comparison to, because that's the whole point of the whole theme of this conversation was about comparison to other games that we can bring in from other games to Mortal Kombat 11, was that Tekken and Street Fighter do a really good job of having dev support of the esports arena, and that's something Mortal Kombat hasn't done. I don't think they did it in MK11. I know they did it a little bit with MKX, but I think the esports are important, particularly for the fans, but also like for the audience as well, to really promote it. And if they can get like big promoted events, by NRS, I think that would really boost the player base as well. Now, I could be wrong, but that's something I feel, because nowadays people just live and breathe esports. Like the biggest games in the world that are played, like League of Legends, Apex Legends, Warzone, they live and breathe esports.
There was a sharp left turn with MK11, where at MKX, it felt like they were really doing the esports thing strongly in a way that was like autonomous to themselves. When MK11 came around, it sounded like it was the reverse. They were going to use the grassroots and kind of insert themselves into Combo Breaker, Final Round, and Devo. And there's pros and cons to both sides. We'll see. It's hard to call because we're post-COVID now. So I don't know what their game plan is at the moment, because all the fighting games, the tournaments that are still around, have kind of restructured a bit.
Yeah. And it's not like they can't coexist, like as far as like the gameplay, because there's going to be your single players. They're going to be the people who want to play together. Like I was mentioning, like tag team, tag team versus each other and everything. But I don't necessarily think not any of them can coexist. Like I think there can be a strong esports and also be a strong single player and in social player base, like in one game. It's not like you go and play. That's the cool thing about Mortal Kombat in the past, almost all the events, is that you'll have your single player story mode and stuff like that, and the people are really big into lore and everything, but then you also have the competitive side as well, and Mortal Kombat's a perfect game for that. And that's something it stands on its own, like compared to other games.
Well, this would be its own podcast, but it does amaze me that there has been so little innovation to the arcade mode, arcade ladder in like the last 25 years. Street Fighter V did a little bit. I haven't really played much with that mode, but
I was okay with Street Fighter V storytelling. I was okay with it. I mean, it's not like Guilty Gear. Guilty Gear has really good storytelling.
Oh yeah, well, it's like a Blu-ray. It's
pretty much.
It's like a full season of anime, pretty much, if you got extra.
Oh, dude, it's more than that. It's like One Piece, dude. There's like so much to it. It's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's over. Well, Strive by itself is over 4 hours of content. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's before the DLC. That's before Guilty Gear Strive Aftermath.
Mm-hmm.
2023 though, I do think Tekken's coming out in 2023.
Okay.
And the reason is because if they're showing story mode, that tells me all the voice acting has to be done. Maybe not the whole story mode has to be rendered, but
Mm-hmm.
I imagine a lot of it has. And the part they did show at the VGAs was not cheap. And if that's completed, I'm gonna wager most of the story mode is probably completed by now.
I think it's pretty ballsy to have 3 AAA titles in 1 year.
Exactly. And I was gonna say that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think here's where you may be right. I think 2024 is a possibility because I don't think Harada wants to compete with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I think he was banking because I don't think he knows. I don't think he has his ear to that wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he probably didn't know there was a Mortal Kombat dropping this year, and there might not be, but I would bet every dollar in my bank account there is. So that is the 2024 argument.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're going by what they have completed so far, and Harada said we're aiming for 2023, and I haven't really seen a good counter argument. He did say that, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Well, the people who did know that still agreed with you. They still said, we don't care. We're saying 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And I've argued with those cats. And those are smart dudes. I just don't agree with their reasons. To their defense, Harada was being very wishy-washy about 2023. It's like, yeah, we would like to get the game out in 2023. You know, that'd be really nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't very hard. But that could be because he's not allowed to give a release date yet for marketing purposes. Because it's amazing how sacred the release date has become over the last 5 years or so. No one wants to say when anything is coming out anymore. Release how long did it take for us to get a release date for the Breath of the Wild sequel?
Yeah, I don't know. How long?
I don't know either. I'd have to ask the guys, but
I don't know.
It took a good while. It took a healthy amount of time. So yeah, so I mean, if Tekken does come out in 2023, is that? Do you plan on kind of latching on to Tekken for a bit then?
Probably not.
Really? That's interesting.
If it's around the same time.
Okay, that's fair.
If it's around so Street Fighter 6 comes out June 1st, at least for the people who pre-ordered it. June 2nd is the official release date. I'm going to assume October 8th is going to be the release date for Mortal Kombat 12. If it is Mortal Kombat 12, it's Mortal Kombat 12.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Mortal Kombat 8 or October 8th, Mortal Kombat 12. I was just assume that what I would if I was Harada. Let's see, June, July, August, September, October, 4 months. I would probably wait 6 months after the release of Mortal Kombat if I was Harada. Now, the thing about Harada, he does what he wants.
Yeah, he's a renegade.
Same thing with Lord Daisuke. That's the cool thing. That's what I love about Guilty Gear and Tekken in comparison is like Mortal Kombat does what WB tells him to do. Street Fighter does what they think the fans are going to want, which I also really like. Tekken and Guilty Gear, they're like, I'm going to make what I want to make because I can. You know, Harada's like, this is my game. I'm going to do what I want. You know, and same thing with Daisuke. He's like,
yeah.
Am I saying that right? Daisuke? Daisuke. Sorry, I apologize.
It's like Sasuke.
Guilty Gear fan base. I'm sorry.
Oh no, well, I mean, you're not alone in that. A lot of people call him Daisuke.
Daisuke, yeah. So Daisuke, it's like he's like, I'm gonna make Guilty Gear Strive. This is the way it's gonna be because this is how I want it to be, and I think that's great. Honestly, I wish WB was just like, me and Cyborg talked about this in a podcast, by the way. I was like, I wish WB was just like, hey, Mr. Boone, you know what's best for Mortal Kombat. You know what's best for the fans. Give us a reasonable release date. What's the budget that you need? and we'll try to make the best that we can within reason. Just make us a good game. And I'm sure Ed Boon would be like, okay, a 4-year cycle, give us the X amount of dollars, and we'll make you a good game. And he would probably make the best Mortal Kombat. Like,
that may have happened. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case right now.
And it's weird because WB in the past 2 years, I would say WB is making dramatic changes. I mean, they canned Batgirl, and like it was finished, and they canned it. I mean, because I don't know why, but I would only assume because they think it just was not going to do good, and they didn't want to continue ruining the reputation of DC Comics and WB Games. Whether or not that's the case, or do I agree with that? I just imagine that was probably the reason why. And they just brought out, the Flash trailer with Keaton as Batman. I mean, there's also Ben Affleck as Batman, but they also have Keaton in there, and you're just like, okay, are you trying to appease the fans? Because that seems what you're trying to do. Besides making Ezra Miller the Flash, which I think was one of the worst decisions.
Yeah, that's a choice.
I'm like,
well, to be fair, the movie was already filmed before he did all the really weird evil stuff he did. I think
he was doing the evil stuff during the filming. It just came to light.
Oh, really? Oh man,
dude, he was like a cult leader. He
kidnapped some kids, I think.
He was grooming teenage girls. I don't know the full story behind it. It was something like that, but yeah. And it's like, I think WB is just trying to do a complete like reputation improvement. And so I'm kind of curious. That's why I'm with all the decisions they've been making with the entertainment side of things. I'm really curious to see like what Mortal Kombat 12 is going to be like in what we've seen from WB as of late.
I'm hoping Ed Boon took advantage of the chaos, and when all the changes were happening and all the personnel were shifting around upstairs, Ed Boon was just like, oh, just making a Mortal Kombat game, nothing to see here. And people were just too busy to tell him to do otherwise, right? Because I imagine
cool.
That would be cool. Well, it might be. It's really hard to tell what the problem of MK11 was, because I'm sure a lot of it was WB, but some of it might have been Boon too. So we're going to get a very Boon game in theory. At least whatever it is, it will be somebody's vision. MK11, I don't know who that game was for, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, WB, the chaos made it backfire. I could be completely wrong, and the chaos actually made it worse, where they just paid a couple of dudes and dudettes in suits to hang out at NetherRealm and make sure they were like, making everything the right color of green or red or purple. I don't know. There could have been some extreme micromanaging going on, which would make sense with the timeline. The timeline has so many alternative explanations, though. But I guess final thoughts now, because I'm probably going to crash out and go to bed in 20 minutes. Any final thoughts about really anything? Tekken, Strive, Mortal Kombat 12, esports, just anything.
Honestly, I think right now with everything, 2023 is the year of the fighting game. If there was like some kind of Chinese New Year, Chinese, like, you know what I mean? Like some sort of like gaming year, right? This 2023 is the year of the fighting game. And I hope this brings... I hope with how things are going, it's going to bring in a large amount of a player base, because as the fighting games, they need more players. We need more players. That is one of my, not even a concern. I just think we just need more. And there's also, that's the cool thing. There's the Tekken bros. There's the street, because that's what it is like. That's the one thing I love about Tekken is the community. When I'm watching the Tekken World Tour the other week, I was like sitting there watching it. I was like, this feels like I'm just chilling with the bros watching a football game. That's how it felt. And, I right now, my final thoughts for the year 2023 is over the next 6 months. I think a lot of these developers kind of need to start really working their market hard. 'Cause DNF is gonna fall out of existence if it doesn't give us some sort of something. Especially with the way that the FGC is, because the FGC is just like, oh, we need something all the time now. We need something now. Like, give us, Melina. That's the FGC. Where's like every single morning you look up on Twitter and it's just like everybody, where's MK12? Where's MK12? And at this point, it's just like that goes with all games. Like DNF needs to give us some Spectre gameplay. Let us know about this battle pass. I think Street Fighter 6 needs to give us a lot more character gameplay reveals and start marketing the crap out of that, because you only got about 4 months left before the game is released. If you want to keep that momentum going, I think Tekken does need to announce. I think it would be smart to do a 2023 release if the market continues with if their marketing continues the way with Harada's been doing things. If not, I think it probably needs to come out next year. Project L needs to give. We need some marketing. We need some release dates.
Man, that's a topic. I actually do have more to say on that, but like we could easily go an hour.
Another hour, I know.
Yeah, I think if Project L does not come out in 2024, to me that's basically spells doom. It's over for that game, in my opinion. But that's a whole.
I don't think so. I think the moment it comes in, by the way, Project L, I think Project L is going to be the one fighting game that is going to be for all new players. Like a lot of the FGC, if you go onto any of the Reddits, any of the Discords, or anything like that, when you talk about Project L, it's not fighting game players who are talking about it. It's usually Riot fans that are talking about it. It's like the FGC talks about it whenever there's a new update, but it's like the general consensus is that a lot of the Riot fans are talking about it.
I just think that'll be too far into the rollback revolution, and the free-to-play model is going to struggle in that environment. That's my main theory.
And because I like the free-to-play model personally. I can see why it's not a very good model for fighting games, but that's my final thought, is that over the course of the next 6 months, particularly Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat, DNF Duel, Guilty Gear too. I want Guilty Gear to what the next 2 characters. I want to know what the next 2 characters are.
You and me both, dude, because I have a lot riding on these last 2 characters. I know a lot riding.
Both you and I want Dizzy so bad in this game, and I would love Jam to be in this game.
Agreed. I love Jam. I love Dizzy. Honestly, if I got just Jam, I'd be okay with that, right? Like I would prefer Dizzy, but I would live. I need something though. I have no character right now. I'm tired of throwing shadow like eddies at people. I'm just sick of it. Yeah. So
because there's so much going on right now, you got battle passes left and right. We got announcements, or not announcements. I'm sorry. June 2nd. Most likely Mortal Kombat 12 at the end of the year, with Harada and all his 35-minute video that he just showed with all the gameplay and stuff like that. And that has mixed feelings, by the way. And then, DNF Duel with this one, it's like, dude, guys, it's time. It's time to get on it. We want to know what's going on. We want to know what Cammy is going to play like. I want to know what Lily's going to play like. I want to know what Zangief is going to play like, because I want to know how to beat Zangief, because I freaking hate Zangief. And like, I want to know, what's the next battle pass? I want to know, is it going to be Dizzy, Jam? Is it going to be another character? What it's like right now, where I feel like we're floating in open water right now. Not hyped about anything.
Yeah, that'll definitely change. But you're right. We are in the valley of announcements, so we'll see what it looks like on the other side. Yeah. But no matter what happens, I win, because I get Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising. So I'm happy.
That's another one too. Yeah, that's another one. So
it has rollback netcode, so I don't even need you guys anymore. I'm good. I'm riding high, man.
He's like, fine. You guys don't want to play Grand Blue? I'll go play it on my own. I don't need you guys. F you guys. I'm going home to play Grand Blue. So
I want to play with myself. Yeah.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
No, never. Not even once. It reminds me of you mentioned it on the podcast with Cyborg, but y'all also did it a lot on the podcast with Brusque, where you weren't talking about 3 skins, but you also weren't talking about 5 skins. So the awareness of it was there on the Cyborg podcast.
Cyborg was the one that pointed it out.
Yeah, but on the Brusque podcast, it was like 4 skin city, brother. Like it was, I was like playing Vampire Survivor. I was like, wait, did they say foreskin? That's a good note to end on, I think.
That was a great note to end on, bro. But yeah, you didn't say. Do you have any final thoughts?
Play Marvel vs. Capcom 1.
Get Fikeade.
Yeah, and play Grand Blue.
Yeah, we need to play some Grand Blue.
Yeah, I'd be super down for that. Domestically, the netcode's fine.
Okay. I mean, we're only 3 states away, right? So
yeah, we're not far.
No, not at all. So, and you're in San Antonio too. So that's West Texas. So
yeah, so I literally just get on I-10 and drive on for like 11 hours. I run into you eventually.
Yeah. So, all right, bro. Thanks for wanting to come on. This was great. It was kind of cool to even though I was like the host, I felt like I was being. I was allowed to talk a lot more. You know what I mean? So
yeah, this was fun, and the announcements are still coming. So it's gonna be very easy to do this again in 3 months when we have a whole world of new information.
Yeah, watch.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
I watch it. Like Ed Boon is gonna pull like the MKX trailer like he did, with the Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Like tomorrow morning we're gonna wake up and all of a sudden, there's some kind of MK12 teaser. And everything.
I can't even imagine, man. I
hope, dude. That's what I hope for. I hope it's something like that. That'd be cool. But
it's hard when you don't have like an E3 or an Evo, like because they just drop a bomb on you on a Thursday. I mean, maybe it's possible. I can't rule it out, but I can't even get in that headspace, to be honest with you. But
I think
next time we talk,
no, go ahead.
Next time we talk, we'll at least be playing the Spectre, and if we're not, that's a blow up.
For sure. All right, bro. Get some sleep.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk to you later, bro.